In today's video, I want to share with you 10 foods that I actually feed to my red cherry shrimp. And I've ordered them from the food I feed the least to the ones I feed the most. And the top 3 I essentially feed to my shrimp all the time. Once you've watched this video through, I would love to hear in the comments what you think of my choices and what you feed to your shrimp. Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Richard and I'm the author of the Neocaridina Shrimp Handbook. So let's crack straight on with my number 10, which is botanicals. And what do I mean by botanicals? Well, we mean anything we add to the aquarium that was once alive, but we've simply added to break down and create food for our shrimp. Now, let me give you some examples of botanicals I use. And it might be catappa leaves or oak leaves or beech leaves or banana leaves. It could be alder cones or seed pods. It could be wood. Essentially anything that was once alive and has typically dried and is then added to the aquarium is classed as botanicals. Why have I put botanicals at number 10 and not higher up my list? Well, it's because the shrimp don't actually eat the botanical itself. They don't eat the leaves. What they eat is the bacteria that's breaking down the leaves, the microscopic organisms and the biofilm and the starts of algae and anything that essentially covers those botanicals, covers those leaves or seed pods or wood, whatever it might be. That's what the shrimp eat. In fact, the shrimp dine on them. I would strongly recommend everybody add at least one botanical to the shrimp tanks. Now, you can either purchase botanicals from your local fish store or from eBay and Amazon and such likes, or you can just head out into the wild and collect them. Personally, I collect a lot of dried oak leaves. Every autumn, I head out onto my land where I have a large oak tree. I gather up boxes and boxes of oak leaves, I leave them dry and I add them to my shrimp tanks. You might do the same with banana leaves or catappa leaves or anything you have access to where you are. Providing the botanicals are free from pesticides and pollution, they'll be absolutely perfect in your shrimp tank. Now at number 9 on my list, it's blanched vegetables. And you can essentially add just about any vegetable to your shrimp tank, providing you blanch it first. And that simply means add it to boiling water for anywhere between a few seconds and a couple of minutes. And the blanching process softens the food and ensures that it sinks when you add it to your aquarium. Now, what vegetables can you use? Well, you can use zucchini, broccoli, peas, green beans, carrots, pepper. Essentially, pretty much any vegetable that you might eat at home, you can blanch and add to your shrimp tank. Now, I personally don't feed blanched vegetables as much as I feed some of the other foods on this list. And that's only because I find they make my shrimp water smell. Many people, including here on YouTube, they swear by blanched vegetables. They add them on a regular basis and their shrimp love them. My shrimp love them. There is just clearly something about the makeup of my water that means when I add blanched vegetables, I get a bit of a smell. But they are essentially a great food to feed to your shrimp. Now at number 8 on my list are algae wafers. And algae wafers are a great food to feed to your shrimp. A, because they are made up, as the name suggests, with a large quantity of algae, and our cherry shrimp do love eating algae. The other great thing about algae wafers is they sink. You put them in, they head straight to the bottom where the shrimp are. That's absolutely spot on. Shrimp don't want floating food, they want food that sits on the substrate. Now, I don't feed algae wafers as often as I feed the other foods on my list, and that's simply because I don't find the ingredients are typically as varied and as high quality as some of the other foods on this list. If you have algae wafers and you feed them to your shrimp, that's absolutely brilliant. Just make sure you add in some other food so your shrimp get a full mix of vitamins and minerals and nutrients, which will help your shrimp to grow, be colourful, to molt, and for the females to produce lots of babies. If you just feed your shrimp algae wafers, you might find the colony doesn't grow as quickly as if you feed a varied diet. Now at number 7 on my list is what we here in the UK call frozen prawns, and I think in other parts of the world they get called cocktail shrimp and such likes. But these are absolutely superb. You keep a good sized bag of them in your freezer, and when you want to feed them to your shrimp, you either add a whole one, or if you've got a small colony, you break a bit off, you drop it in with the shrimp, and they will swarm all over it. And yes, it might take them a day or two to eat the whole thing, but they typically hold up well in the water. They don't break down quickly like a pellet or a flake food might. And in my opinion, they come close to the kind of foods our shrimp would be eating if they're in the wild. Our shrimp are detrivores, and dead and decaying bugs and animals and aquatic life would make up a decent portion of their diet. I try and feed frozen prawns to my shrimp at least once or twice a month. Now, number 6 on my list is a real natural food, and that is algae. And how do I feed them algae? I just allow it to grow. Yes, I clean the front glass, but I don't clean the sides or the back. I don't clean the rocks or the wood. I encourage algae to grow. I'm happy for algae to grow. The shrimp not only munch on the algae, but they munch on the microscopic life that lives on the algae. Algae is another example of a food that the shrimp would eat in the wild. No doubt in their natural habitat, algae would make up a huge portion of their diet. Whilst I am not trying to recreate a wild environment in my aquariums, I do like the thought that my shrimp have access to the kinds of foods they would come across in the wild. Now, before we move on to food number 5, I'm on a mission this year to get my channel up to 60,000 subscribers. So if you're looking to level up your shrimp keeping skills this year, why not subscribe to the channel, and in return, I will provide for you 1 or 2 shrimp keeping videos every single week. Now, food number 5 on my list is not only highly nutritious for your shrimp, but it's also free, and that is stinging nettles. Certainly here in the UK and across most of Europe and North America, you can head out and collect stinging nettles from your local area. Providing, much like the Botanicals, they are free from pesticides and pollution, you simply head out, pick a few leaves, bring them home, a couple of minutes in boiling water, and add them to your shrimp tank, and your shrimp will swarm all over them. They absolutely love stinging nettles. Personally, I add 2 or 3 leaves to each of my shrimp tanks, and within a few minutes, those leaves are absolutely covered in shrimp. They will spend the next day or 2 breaking them down, and all you'll be left with is a leaf skeleton that you simply remove and discard. In my opinion, stinging nettles are a fabulous food to feed to your cherry shrimp. Now, at number 4 on my list is flake food, but crushed flake food. I take the flake food and I crush it up into a fine powder, and I've used this to great effect where I've been really trying to crank out baby shrimp. Last year, I ran an experiment where I fed crushed flake food to my shrimp tank every single day for a month, and the population of that tank absolutely boomed. The great thing about crushed up flake is when you add it to your tank, it essentially turns into a cloud of food that spreads everywhere. It goes between the rocks, behind the filter, around the plants. Everywhere your shrimp are, there will be crushed flake food for them to eat. The reason this worked so well in my breeding tank was when the baby shrimp are born, they typically don't move very far for the first week or 2. So if there's no food available where they're born, they will perish. Whereas if your tank is an absolute cloud of crushed flake, there will be food everywhere, and your baby shrimp will find it, eat it, and grow. In that breeding tank, I have no doubt that was the secret to my success. Now, number 3 on my list is pellet food, and I don't buy specialist shrimp pellet food, I just buy good quality fish pellet food. I like to feed my shrimp Vibrance. I feed them Tetra Prima, and I love feeding them Tetra Pro crisps. Your shrimp will absolutely chow down on any good quality fish or shrimp pellet food. And the nice thing about pellet food is you can easily control how much you add to your tank. If you've got a small colony, put 3 or 4 pellets in. If you've got a large colony, 200, 300, 400 shrimp, then put more pellets in. It's so easy with pellets to see how much your shrimp are eating and adjust accordingly. In my opinion, pellets should make up a large part of your cherry shrimp's diet. Now, food number 2 on my list is rachigel food. And I've been feeding my shrimp rachigel for the last 2 or 3 years, and I absolutely love it. If you've never tried it before, it essentially comes in a powdered form, and you add it to boiling water, you mix it well, you leave it to stand until it's set. Admittedly, at this point, it smells a bit like death. Then you cut it into cubes and add it to your fish or your shrimp tanks. Not only is rachigel food made with real good quality ingredients, but it holds up well. It maintains its integrity in the water for sometimes up to 48 hours. You can put a cube into your shrimp tank, your shrimp will swarm all over it. They will feed to the heart's content, and then they'll wander off. And then 2 or 3 hours later, they'll come back and they'll feed again. The rapashi doesn't break down the minute it hits the water. It stays firm, it holds up, and the shrimp absolutely love it. Now, there has been some controversy recently about food number 1 on my list, with at least one high-profile YouTuber claiming that this food will kill all of your fish and shrimp. In my experience of feeding this food for more than 30 years, I've never knowingly killed my shrimp or fish by feeding it, and that is frozen bloodworms. I love frozen bloodworms. I feed frozen bloodworms to my shrimp 3, 4, sometimes 5 times a week. It's probably the food I feed more often than any other. It's so simple to feed. You head to the freezer, you get a single cube, and you can either drop it in if you've got a large colony, or if you've got several tanks with small colonies in, you take your cube of bloodworm and you put a bit in that tank, and then you move it and you waft it in the next tank, and you put it in this tank and you waft it. I don't care what you've read or what you've heard elsewhere, you don't need to defrost your bloodworm. You don't need to rinse your bloodworm. If my aquarium can't handle a little bit of the bloodworm water that I waft around in there, then I've got bigger problems than that. These aquariums, a proper seasoned, a proper cycled aquarium, can easily handle the waste from a cube of bloodworm. Bloodworms are high in protein and they are absolutely superb for building up your colony, and they're especially good for your female shrimp who want all of that protein for their developing young. Now, whatever food you feed your shrimp, in my opinion, variety is the key. You wouldn't want to just feed them a pellet or just feed them bloodworm or just feed them botanicals, but you want to have as much variety as possible. You want to have some botanicals in there. Maybe once a week they have a pellet. Twice a week they have bloodworm. A couple of times a month they have rapashi. Every now and then you give them some frozen brine shrimp. Variety is the key to success, and I don't think there's one food we can feed our shrimp. I think we have to feed several foods to give them a healthy, balanced diet. There is no doubt in my mind that one of the secrets to growing a large, healthy colony of shrimp is a varied diet. And if you want to know more ways that you can breed lots and lots of cherry shrimp, then watch this video next. Thanks for watching.